At Synergy Financial Partners, the mission is to change.
The following is a GoPowercat.com production.
Well, the Insiders is off to a really good start here. I've raced the bottom third. I've hit the wrong buttons. I'm here though. Welcome to the Insiders. Tim Fitzgerald, Brien, Gilbert, Tim Everson, Big B will be joining us shortly. He's in a very, very important meeting. Highly important. He's doing a draft right now. Fantasy football. Gills, were you just saying you're not into fantasy football anymore?
No, I just bet too much on individual games. I just can't stay invested in a fantasy league. I'm sorry, I said it.
Everson, were you saying you have a draft too?
I'm drafting currently. Yes,
you're doing it now.
Situation, yeah.
Awesome. Hopefully we can have everyone help us out. Like, give you advice.
Get there,
right?
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Look, I'll be honest, folks. We did these on Mondays, and that was a good day because it was like our slow day. And then Chris Kleiman took our slot.
Got real selfish.
I'm not real happy with him. And then today he's like, "Oh, so we're back already." I'm like, "Yeah, because you wanted to be back on Mondays." Well, I wouldn't want to see Ryan Gilbert 2 days out of 3.
Yeah, the frustrating part for me was, you guys know I bartended in Aggieville for 3 years at Taco Lucha, which is closed on Mondays. So that would have been awesome to have that built-in day off for the press conferences. Now I'm done bartending, and of course we make the change to Monday. So thank you, Chris Kleiman. If you're listening to this, you really messed up there.
You know he is. You just know he is.
Watching. I know you're watching.
What else could he possibly be doing on a Monday night? So we're probably going to try to scratch this thing out on Monday nights, unless the Chiefs or Steelers are in Monday Night Football. Oh my gosh, Cole Carmody's in the chat. Cole, you just want to join the show? You can. I didn't know you'd be free. He's always just teaching. It's always about Gilbert. He's always just teaching young people how to survive in the mean, hard streets of Olathe. Tim, since we haven't talked to you since the game, by choice, first of all, let's hype all your stuff now. You just finished up K-Man. What's it called?
Normally I will have just finished up Wildcat Insider.
That's right. Their version of the Insiders
today because of Labor Day.
Yes, lazy radio people. Yeah, but you're also part of PowerCat Game Day now. Congratulations.
Right. Super fun. How
did episode 1 go? Did you curse a lot?
Yes. And yeah, no, it went well. I think we got a good group. It's me. It's Mason Voth over at K-State Online, and former fullback tight end Zach Nemechek, along with Mitch Fortner. And yeah, I mean, it was probably a little shaky since it was kind of the first one from Mitch since last season. And then Zach and I aren't pros like Mason. So it took a little while to get the whole thinking and talking thing going again. But it was fun. I'm excited to get back in there on Tuesday and prep for week 2.
Okay. Well, I didn't listen because I have flashbacks. I did that for a lot of years, but we always did it live. And I kept going towards the end. I was like, could we start taping this? I mean, I'm in bars 4 hours before kickoff on the road and nobody's there. And, it used to be packed. But nope. And so I just kind of moved on. Ryan Gilbert, give me your assessment of the game.
Just go.
Just go.
Give it. I think by and large, man, just take everything kind of with not a big grain of salt, but, I think it was pretty clear and obvious that the playbook, try not to have people get injured. It was a pretty vanilla Fitz. I know you've used that term a number of times since the game ended, right? Lance came up with the chicken breast, boiled chicken, right? And so, I wrote about, Avery Johnson maybe pumping the brakes just a little bit on the expectations there. There wasn't a whole lot to see that was amazing. Same thing kind of goes for the wide receivers, and that's not to bash Avery Johnson. Could have been a lot worse, could have been a lot better, but the biggest takeaway is that, I think K-State staff was pretty darn confident heading into that game against UT Martin that even with a fumbled punt, even with a kickoff that goes out of bounds, an Avery Johnson interception that he, an uncharacteristic decision from him, right? All those things kind of went against K-State. They knew they were going to have enough playmakers, enough talent to cruise to a victory. So, we didn't see a whole lot really is probably the biggest takeaway, and that's fine. Avery Johnson didn't shine, but, that was kind of something I talked about was, okay, maybe Avery Johnson is not going to have to be the hero like we kind of expected him to be this season. When you look at what K-State has on defense, K-State can pitch a 6-point shutout. That's not a shutout. If they can, let up a couple field goals and have that be it, right? Avery Johnson's not going to be asked to be superhero, right? If Dylan Edwards and Jay Giddens can do what they do and the wideouts can take a step up from what we saw last Saturday, maybe Avery Johnson doesn't have to go out and win the Heisman. I know it's crazy talk to some, but, he can rely on his teammates because K-State top to bottom, the depth on this team is very strong.
Tim, give me your thoughts on not just the game, but how they used or didn't use Avery Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, they seemed, they didn't really want to test things too terribly much. They got to throw a couple long balls. Most of the stuff was fairly, 10, 15 yards or throwing a screen out to Dylan or whatever. So nothing super crazy. He only ran with the ball 3 times. And then as I think Coach mentioned in the press conference earlier today, only one of those was a designed run. The other 2 were decisions by him to keep it and run with it. I think, and I think you pointed this out, he did kind of seem to liven up a little bit after that first design run. You kind of saw a little bit more life. He talked about after the game that, getting that first hit in that first real tackle kind of got him back into the game a little bit, and he was a lot better in the second half for sure. I think that defense was also kind of worn down a little bit, especially with K-State's run game, but it wasn't, with the kind of hype fest that went on throughout the offseason, very few things kind of lived up to maybe what some fans had in their mind of what the Avery Johnson debut start was going to be. I think the fact that, 2 touchdowns, the interception's not great, but he has his first interception out of the way now. He can move on from that. It was fine. It was good. It was not, I don't think there's anything to be concerned about.
Okay. Looks like we're going to be joined here by a 4th person. And whoops. What happened to Tim?
Okay.
Tim
Sorry,
got booted.
Tim. You're done.
Wow.
You've been demoted.
Wow. Welcome, Cole. We were just exchanging our thoughts on the game. Why don't you jump right in and give me your quick thoughts?
Well, my first thought is listening to Ryan Gilbert every day. It's now that we have to deal with him all the time, that's always going to be a struggle. Maybe the whole reason why I didn't want to even get on this podcast in the first case was because Gilbert was here. But nonetheless,
well, I'm your managing editor now. Fitz called me his managing editor, and I think that's the coolest thing in the world. So I'm above you now, Cole. I know, and I'm going to have to deal with that for forever. But as far as the football game goes, I guess that's what we're talking about. The more I've kind of had to sit back and think and then compare it to other games because, I feel like you have to look at week 1 as a whole, right? Like I know we're focused solely on K-State, but you look at week 1 as a whole, and there is a lot of teams who did not have good games who we thought might be pretty good. To me, that was the biggest story of week 1 throughout college football. There isn't a lot of teams where you're like, this team was supposed to be good and they rolled. I would say Texas was probably in that category, but like, guys, Oregon won by 10 points against Idaho, another FCS school. Utah, they looked pretty good, but it was like the same margin of victory as K-State. And so, it's really hard to put stock into week 1 games, but there was no takeaways besides maybe Boston College, who's beating Florida State right now. We're like, oh, we didn't think this team was going to be very good. They're really good. And on that same token, there wasn't a lot of teams where we think they're going to be pretty good, but they're not very good. So that's kind of how I'm with K-State.
they got the win. Now the real test is on Saturday.
Yeah, it's hard to measure from these games. I agree. But here's my theory. And by the way, folks, we're going to answer your questions. So if you've got some, go put them in the YouTube chat. Sorry, Twitter, we don't see that on our display here. So if you ask a question on Twitter,
I see Twitter chat.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're looking at, Fitz. I see it.
Really? Oh, there is a Twitter chat now. They must have worked that in. That's
so you're an old
nice.
boomer, Fitz. They changed it to X now, so it's got that X logo and not the little bird, okay?
It's always Twitter. I'm never going to call them exclamations. They're tweets.
I saw somebody say that Twitter is just its government name. X is the nickname. Twitter is the government name.
I like it. Yeah, I feel like if you're Kansas State, if you're a team in the Big 12 or ACC, style points are going to matter. And you got to force your way into the post-game highlights, the ESPN highlights, the CBS highlights, the Fox highlights. Give them highlights. Give them big things. And they've got players to do that aren't Avery. But when you have Avery, let the horse run. Let that pony get out and stretch the legs a little bit. The guy's a walking highlight reel, and you turned him into Tom Brady sitting in the pocket trying to pass. That ain't his game. He can stand in the pocket and pass, but look, folks, he needs to get out and run and start to feel part of the game. I thought the coaches did a horrible job of getting him involved. They got Dylan involved. They got DJ involved. They got other people involved. They didn't involve their quarterback very well until the second half, and I thought that was a kind of a miscalculation. I'm telling you, when you go to Tulane, first of all, the older players that were around in 2022 want the win big time, or bigly. I guess bigly is the right word now. But you also need to get some highlights out there. You need to win this game with authority and have your players doing the cool things they can do. So you're on SportsCenter quite a bit. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah,
Here, this is exactly right. Let's just get the chant going. Free Avery, free Avery. Go ahead, Gills.
Why'd you take it off? Keep it up there.
I know. Well, never mind.
I like how you. So I was thinking about that during the game, Fitz, with Avery's kind of happy feet, throwing passes. I'm like, come on, Avery, get set, plant your feet, fundamentals, right? But then I thought about it. It's like that's not Avery Johnson. He's supposed to be throwing on the move and making highlight plays like that. So yeah, that's his game is not to be Tom Brady. He's supposed to be the acrobatic athlete that we've, all the hype we've heard about and stuff. That's who he's supposed to be. So you can't fault Avery for the way that the game was called, right? So again, I'm not faulting the staff necessarily because it's week one, right? We've touched on that a bunch, but some players might need to see just a completion, right? Get a quick little slant route, get somebody the ball in their hands, a completion, and that can get a quarterback going into the groove. Avery Johnson needs to get hit. He wants to get popped. He's an athlete. He's a competitor. He wants that hard hit. That's what gets him going. And Fitz, you talked about it. Avery Johnson talked about it, and we saw his performance get better after he took that hit on that run.
Mm-hmm. He did.
Part of this too is, guys, like the quarterback play, what we compare Avery's performance to is relative to the quarterback play around the country. And I would venture to say right now, the level of quarterback play across the country, I don't want to say it's at an all-time low, but who is the best quarterback in college football right now? Like, I mean, Shedeur Sanders? Is it Carson Beck? I mean, Dylan Gabriel? All of these guys that are so, quote-unquote, the best quarterbacks in college football, and I think Will Howard probably belongs in that conversation right now. I mean, are they that much better than Avery Johnson? That's really what this comes down to. So are you comparing Avery Johnson to what you think his potential is? Are you comparing Avery Johnson to where he is right now? Or are you comparing him to the best quarterbacks in college football? Because I think you can do all of those to an extent. I do think that by the end of the season, Avery will be in that conversation, but he didn't do anything that cost his team the game. But he also didn't make any standout highlight plays. Go look at Dylan Gabriel's stats at Oregon. He was 41 of 48, but he only threw for 250 yards. And so, I mean, is that what you wanted Avery Johnson to do? There's just a lot of things that you can look at and compare to the rest of the quarterbacks around the country. But, I agree. And the way that quarterbacks are nowadays, Gilbert, you mentioned it. The best quarterbacks in the NFL and in college for that matter, are the ones that get out of the pocket and make plays. Very rarely do we have that stand-up quarterback who stands in the pocket, Peyton Manning style, and throws the ball down the field. So, again, we're going to find out a lot about this team on Saturday. But the more I think about Avery's game, it wasn't bad. It was just he just did what he needed to do.
Yeah, he did what he was asked to do. Did Dillon Gabriel throw anything but screens? How do you get that yardage out of 41 completions?
I mean, the fact that they threw the ball 48 times and were only winning 17-14 in the fourth quarter against Idaho has to be concerning for Dan Lanning. But
yeah, I think so. Look, when I saw the Heisman list and Dillon Gabriel and Quinn Ewers and Will Howard, Carson Becker, the top ones up there. There's some others, Shadur Sanders maybe, but those other guys, I'm like, okay. I mean, they're all just gonna. I don't think they're all that good. I think they're good, but I don't think they're great Heisman Trophy. Heisman Trophy is supposed to be someone special. I want someone really worthy of it, not just racking up stats that don't really mean much against Idaho. I want something of substance, and it looked like Oregon was intent on getting Dillon Gabriel in some headlines more than winning. And K-State was involved more with winning than actually letting Avery play. Somewhere in the middle is a good way to be, good place to be. And I just thought what K-State put on the field offensively was boiled chicken. It's exactly what it was. And they won easily. I get all that, folks. But Tim Everson, we're in a point of college football now, and I don't care what the computer rankings say for the college football playoff. Looking sexy and getting your highlights on national TV is a big part of this game.
Yeah, I found it interesting when we talked to Avery earlier. A thing that he brought up a couple times that he was disappointed with was just the number of snaps that that the team had while he was out there. I don't think he was saying that he wanted to be out there more or deeper into the game necessarily, but he just feels like there were plays and stuff that they were planning on running that they just didn't even get to for whatever reason. And he brought that up more than once, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't know 100% what he was trying to say with that. I don't think that it was taking a shot at anybody or the coaching staff. It was just kind of, it wasn't because of the situation of the game and what it was. It just, we weren't able to do a whole lot of what we wanted to do. And so it was just kind of a meh. It was, yep. Good. It was fine. We did what we needed to do, but it's not anything that I want to talk about much anymore.
Very true. Very true. Hold on. We got one more person now. Let's figure this out. Gilbert, you're not running the show. Get out of here with that. There we go. Add to stage. There we go. There's the team. Hi, Brien Hanley. How'd the draft go?
Good. A lot of people donating money. That's always good for me. So, fantasy football donations, I'll take it.
I don't think they view them as donations. I think they're thinking they're going to win.
Yeah, they did, but they're not going to.
Okay, we just talked about the offense. Big B, give me your thoughts on that K-State offense Saturday.
Super vanilla. Just
delicious. Super vanilla.
Didn't show a ton. Some bad offense, some bad throws, I would say. But the route concepts, I think they ran like 3 routes the whole game, like no concepts of anything. So it just kind of is what it is. Like it was just I was disappointed because I just thought we could line up and just run the ball whenever, which basically we could. But throwing the football just didn't look great, but I don't think they wanted it to look great. I'll be honest with you, Fitz. I just think they thought, okay, this is what we're going to do. It's going to work or it isn't. And might be ugly, but we're just going to go win this game and get the first game jitters out.
Ron Gilbert, please keep an eye on the chat over there. See if we got anything popping that we need to be talking about.
That's my job. Got it.
See some great reactions from folks. Bear, Super Bear, why go 100% in the first game like that? I'm not even asking for 100%. not asking to open up the playbook and unveil a bunch of stuff. Just let him run stuff. I mean, just have a few things that he can do, and he needs to run. It's part of his game. It's always been part of his game. They basically, and I hate making this comparison because he was a great player but a horrible person. Johnny Manziel would run around and make plays and then make Sports Center, and that's what Avery's capable of doing. And you got to let him do it a little more often than one design carry in that game. And I get it. They don't want him to get hurt. If he gets hurt, everything changes. But when you got a tool like that, you got to use it properly whenever you can.
I have a theory on this, guys, and Big B, tell me if I'm off base here, because I mean, I know you guys, when you were at K-State, there was notorious for, those schools, maybe not so much you're a little bit after, the schools that you knew that you could not necessarily pound into the ground, but you knew that this was the game to work on things. This was the game to show off your depth. It kind of felt like K-State was like, we want to get everybody into the game, not so much that we're not going to show what we have and what we don't have, but they wanted to make sure that the plays that they ran, every person would be able to run that play. Every receiver that rotated in the game would understand the concept. Every defensive player that came out onto the field understood the base formations. Every running back that got into the game knew where they needed to be. Because they rotated so many guys, it just felt like they were on their day one installation packages, and we're not going to throw anything to mix anybody up, to get anybody confused, because we just want to see these guys go out and play.
And those guys did awesome with that. There was no real quick. Chris Kleiman mentioned on Monday here, there was no penalties. There was a kick out of bounds, obviously, but the starters, the second, the depth guys, the bench players, so to speak, whatever, there were no penalties. Chris Kleiman was very pleased with there's the Avery Johnson turnover, right? There was the punt out of bounds. Of course, there were mistakes in the game, but operationally, K-State, those depth pieces specifically, they lived up to, what they're expected to do. So I like what you said, Cole. Get those guys comfortable in the system.
I have a scorekeeping question. There was a penalty. The penalty said 0-0 for K-State. Mm-hmm. They did have the out of bounds kick. Does that not show up as a penalty?
Technically not, I guess.
Unless it's a personal foul penalty, unless they count the penalties as a personal foul penalties.
I don't know.
Was it a kickoff or a punt?
Yeah, it was a kickoff. He hit a kickoff, and it was a great kickoff. I mean, it bounced at about the 1 yard line, but it bounced straight left and out of bounds. So I don't think he meant to do that. But overall, I thought the team played well. I mean, let's be honest. The line needed a place to start. And Big B, you're the lineman. And Tim, you could be a lineman. I also could be, but I'm a wuss. Give me your thoughts on how this line played, boys.
I thought they were okay. I mean, they didn't do anything spectacular. I think Tennessee Martin put up a little bit more of a fight than I think they anticipated. I think that has something to do with it. But again, I mean, I was paying attention to it. They ran about 4 offensive run plays. That's all they did. And I don't mean they ran 4 and they either ran it right or they ran it left. That was it. They didn't run, 7, 8, 10 different run plays. That's not what happened. And they were all blocked pretty much the same. So, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to run the ball better against the Tennessee Martin. I just thought if it's just basic football out there, you're not going to see 20-yard run. You're not going to see a lot of dynamic runs. It's just basic football. So I thought they were fine. There were plays where guys got beat that I don't like seeing them get beat, but guys get beat. I mean, those guys get scholarships too. So it happens. It happens. And I've said it before. College football is different than what it was before, Fitz. There's going to be 4 or 5 of those defensive players on Tennessee Martin next year that are playing Power 5 or Power 4 football. That's just so – it's just the way it is. So everybody on their team isn't some perceived scrub or whatever the case may be. It's, but I thought the line was fine. I thought it was fine.
I mean, the quarterback was an Ole Miss signee, for heaven's sake.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
They got some dudes. Tim, give me your thoughts on that offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to make some things happen. I think they've eventually kind of wore into the UT Martin defense a little bit into the second half, and things were moving. I think for kind of the first game of this group together out there. I thought it was good. They seemed in step, at least for the most part. I think really the more impressive thing is when they started to mix in some of the other pieces later, how much the kind of the backup running backs, the Joe Jacksons, the Jimmy Whites, the success that they had late in the game. I think that is going to help kind of build the confidence of a guy like a John Pastore or some guys that's kind of right on the cusp of making kind of a regular rotation. I think that was a good sign. I liked seeing that a lot.
Here's a question: what overall grade did the coaching staff feel about? I'm assuming he means Avery's performance. We don't ask the coaches. Sometimes you will, but we didn't ask for a grade. I think everyone recognizes that the interception was bad. I asked him today to kind of go through it, and he said he just misfired. He just didn't get enough under it, and the safety or linebacker, whoever it was, could step in front of it. And so, he owned that one. It wasn't anything. He would make that throw again. He would just make the throw differently. So, but overall, he made good decisions. Yeah, he threw the ball into the ground a few times, but I'm telling you, you can't expect him to be accurate when he's just kind of playing a type of football he's not used to playing and not moving around at all and standing in the pocket. Someone commented that it looked like he could have ran a couple more times. Well, it's pretty clear they wanted him to throw the ball and work on that and show that. And that might be the gambit here, is they just wanted to kind of show that passing game more than anything else. But everyone knows Avery's going to run. Everyone scouted every moment, every play you ran at Tech in the bowl game. They've scouted it. Why don't you run some of that stuff? The kid's explosive. I would assume, boys, we're going to see more of it at Tulane. I don't think Chris Kleiman's going to make that mistake twice and go out there and try to be vanilla, especially on the road. I think they're going to open it up a little bit. But let's turn over to the defense, though. He says the D line looks a little small. Damian Alalio is not a big kid. When he came in the post game, I was like, "Where's the rest of you?" I was a little caught off guard. He kind of looked like the grown up version of the kid in Up. So that's a reference I enjoy quite a bit because I love the movie Up and I cry at it. But yeah, I see that, particularly those what they're calling their defensive tackles now, Travis Bates and Cheedy. I don't really think they're true defensive tackles. They're meant more for pass rush. But overall, boys, I thought that defense was salty. They made a few mistakes. They could have gotten burned on a few passes that they weren't. But when you hold them to just over 100 yards with a big chunk of that on one play, you had a good day at the office.
If they think that K-State's defensive line is small, they obviously did not see Chidi Obiizer.
That kid's a freak.
I mean, this guy, that kid he's going to be a stud. I think the biggest story about the defense guys was how many defensive linemen played, how many defensive linemen were effective. And really, I still have no idea who the best defensive linemen are. I mean, Jordan Allen was in on the fourth quarter, running around making plays against UT Martin in the first quarter of that game. And I think he easily could have been able to participate in the first half of that game. It's just I have not figured out yet who is going to be K-State's, rotational guys that they're going to go with, because at some point, I truly believe at some point you're going to want to kind of narrow down your guys or what their roles are going to be. I don't really know if Buddy White and Coach Tui know exactly what the roles of all the guys are going to be just yet. That's probably still kind of, the one thing that they walked out of that game, which I guess is a good thing because nobody really cemented themselves, but nobody really also showed that they shouldn't be playing. So I'm sure that this week in practice is going to be tough for those guys because it's a battle in the trenches. It will be a battle in the trenches against Tulane, and you're probably going to need all those guys. So those guys are all going to play, but you're going to need all those guys against Tulane because it's going to be 87 degrees with 125% humidity, and it's going to feel like 110 degrees on the turf. That's just what's going to happen. So all those guys are going to play.
I looked at the weather today in New Orleans, and it was like 80 something. Oh, that's nice. I looked at the humidity. It was 93%.
Yeah.
Those people live in soup.
Yeah. It's horrible. I mean, guys, like seriously, when you walk down there, I mean, I've been down there the last 4 summers, 3 summers, 4 summers, whatever it is, and every time you walk outside down there, your legs will start sweating. And so when Coach Kleiman said it in his press conference, it's going to be hydration throughout the week. I mean, literally, you have to start hydrating right now, and there will be guys that cramp up. There will be guys that have to rotate in the game because the weather is going to be an issue down there. It just is.
Yep. Bernie, you're exactly right. That depth they have the defensive line, they're a little thinner at nose tackle, but that depth is going to come in handy. They'll be able to rotate guys. Hopefully Austin Moore's healthy. He was a little dinged up and didn't play the second half, which I totally missed. Or I just didn't realize it was because of that. And Asa Newsom didn't play. I would imagine he'll be suited up. They've been talking about him like he's ready to play, and then he didn't suit up. So yeah, I thought that was
Kleiman seemed pretty optimistic today. Yeah. But with the defensive line, man, just in the trenches, K-State was impressive, and the depth is just so evident there, right? Like my knee-jerk reaction after the game was the running back depth is the best on the team, and behind DJ and Dylan, you've got Jimmy White and Joe Jackson. They played fine. One scored, one other had like 9, almost 10 yards of carry. But then you look, the linebackers, good. We talked to Austin Romaine today. Austin Moore's injury opened the door for a number of guys, obviously, to kind of get in there as well. But there's just so many guys on the defensive line that you have to get them on the field. You have to get Chidi on the field. You have to get, Uso on passing downs. Damian Alalio is disruptive. All these guys. Brendan Mott is as smooth, as solid, as consistent as they come. Toby, I want to see him on there personally, for a sack celebration, right? There's so many guys that you have to get on the field because they're just that good of players, man. So that's going to be tough to manage. That's going to be a challenge. But I guess that's the blessing with that heat, the humidity, the weather in New Orleans, right? Rotate, get those guys in, keep them fresh. The only problem might be some tempo, but rotate guys in, keep them fresh.
I agree.
Big B, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
As an offensive lineman, when you see defensive linemen continuously rotating into the game, in and out of the game, does that put any kind of strain on you as an offensive lineman? Because every single defensive lineman plays that position differently, right? Just look at Toby. He's a speed rusher. You got a guy like Ryan Davis or Chidi Obiizer. He ain't a speed rusher. That guy will get in your chili and drive you back into the backfield with the bull rush. How do you, as an offensive lineman, I guess, how do you prepare for that? Because I feel like that has to be a challenge.
It is, but the one thing that you have to remember, they're trying to get around you. So, that's the first thing, is that you're not trying to get around them. You're trying to move them, but they're trying to get around you. So, they're using up way more energy than what you're using up. And that's the advantage that an offensive lineman has, because look, it's not often that an offensive lineman is going to have the athletic advantage over a defensive lineman. I don't care what position it is. I don't care how big that defensive lineman is. He could be 6'5", 370. He's usually a better athlete than anybody he's going up against. But again, they're trying to get around you to get to where the ball is going. So whether it's pass or run, you have that advantage, and you get more tired doing that. You just do. You can't be a run and react type of defense anymore. There were teams that used to just hold your gap, not penetrate. We used to love going against those guys because we're just going to knock you off the football. Yeah. And that's what a lot of teams do. Either that or they're running outside zone plays and they're going to get tired. So it's different. Don't get me wrong. Running fresh guys in, but the reason that they're doing that is because they're tired. It's not because they just want to get a whole bunch of guys out there. It's because guys are tired. Now, again, K-State did that in this first game. That's different because they're wanting to play a bunch of guys. But you get into a real close football game, if they're rotating a bunch of guys because they're trying to stay fresh, that's the reason that you do it.
Mr. Everson, what jumped out to you about the defense?
I loved what I saw as far as how uncomfortable they made the UT Martin quarterback. He was under attack since pretty much the first snap. I know that he mentioned, some comment mentioned that the defensive line seems small. It can be small, it needs to be, but they can also bring in those big guys and they can beef up and it can be pretty formidable. I don't know. I think that they're still trying to figure out what all they have and how those pieces can kind of be moved. I am more interested as we go into the Tulane game with their quarterback, his redshirt freshman, only made one start. How much is the defensive line going to be able to affect his play, get him rattled? Because that feels like if you can do that, that takes tons of pressure off secondary and linebackers and everything. If you can get him uncomfortable and always thinking, I don't know, that just feels like that's going to be the biggest key going in.
I feel like. Go ahead, Gills.
Two things. Number one, you've had a full offseason to prepare. Who they play? Southeast Louisiana. Was that who they played, right? You had a full offseason to prepare for that. Great. Now you've got a week. Well, I guess they had a longer, 8-9 days because they played on Thursday, right? But so that's where K-State can really, take advantage there. You've had a whole offseason to prepare for your first game. Now you're on a much shorter time crunch to prepare for a Power 5 team. So that's where K-State can really get after it. But real quick, guys, you know whose name we haven't mentioned, who's the most underrated player on this, probably the whole team, at least on the defense, is Des Purnell. I mean, he, for some reason, he just continues to just keep flying under the radar. He was nails on Saturday.
Oh, he's amazing. He's turned into such an incredible linebacker. It's almost to the point where you can't take him off the field. If you go to two linebackers, you have to keep him out there. He's that good. I've been telling people he looked like Josh Buell with 30 more pounds. He was just chasing people down. Again, Cheaty's just terrifying. I mean, the stuff that kid's doing at about 270, 80 pounds. I'm not sure where he's at right now. That kid's special. Big B, by the end of the season, I will be very curious to see who is actually on that pass rush package, because they might have a bunch of freshmen or, redshirt freshmen out there in that package just tormenting Big 12 offenses, because Toby is a problem. Yeah. He's a big problem.
Yeah.
Maybe he took advantage of bad tackles, but that kid is quick, he's decisive, and he's powerful. We saw some of it last year, and now he's a year older. He's going to get after quarterbacks all season long.
I mean, yeah, he took advantage of bad tackles, but isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to take advantage of bad tackles. So, yeah, that's what really good football players do. He did that. He's going to face some better competition, some better tackles in the Big 12. Having said all of that, he's going to be a problem. The defensive line in general is going to be the problem. That's what Tim's right. For me, that was what was most impressive thing out of K-State, because coming into the season, while we thought that these guys were going to be good, and again, it's still early, but that was what was missing last year, is we couldn't get after the quarterback without trying to rush 5 or 6 guys, blitz them from all over the place. When you don't have to do that, and you can rush 4, now you can't rush 3, I'm out on that, but if you can rush 4 and get to the quarterback and make plays, your entire defense is going to be better, because you can cover the back end. And this is what K-State is going to be, or should be able to do moving forward. If you can get those pass rushers out there, and I'm not against, and I think we're probably going to see it, you get into obvious passing situations, 4 across, all defensive ends rushing the quarterback. Right. You're going to see that at some point this year, because that's what really good football teams do when they are in passing situations. They just say, you know what, we're going to give 4 defensive ends, block them, see what you can do. Because those inside guards, they're not going to like that. These guys are too quick. They're moving around too fast. Trust me. I know that. And we don't like it at all. So K-State's got an advantage, man. They got to take advantage. Get as many of those guys, again, in obvious passing situations, get as many on the field as possible. But, yeah, they're going to be a problem. If this is any indicative of how they're going to move forward, they'll be a problem.
Go ahead.
Sorry, to put Toby's freakishness into perspective, in the, I guess it would be the 2021 state track and field meet, he sprinted against Jacob Parrish. Like they were competing in the same sprinting. I mean, that's just
the 4x1.
Absolutely.
They were
Yes.
they were against each other in the 4x1. He was with Wichita East, and then Jacob was with Olathe North. But yeah, he was. I think he might have been the anchor on the Wichita East 4x1 team.
So it's just
I saw a picture of that because we did an article on him and that state track meeting. I do remember that. I want to put this up here, guys.
Yep.
This is an underrated aspect of football right now. Because of the rules that NCAA has, I mean, it makes tackling in practice basically impossible. I know they still have some days where they go full pads, but I mean, that tackle that Des Purnell had, I want to say it was on a third down, and it was a shoestring tackle, but he had the strength to get that guy to the ground. I mean, there was not very many instances where there was a UT Martin running back who would not go down on immediate contact. So I was really impressed with the tackling, just the defense overall, because it's not easy, especially week one, to be able to tackle and finish the play. We see that a lot, but that obviously was a point of emphasis in the offseason.
I agree. They don't do a whole lot of live tackling. They just don't do it. I mean, the rules have changed. Bill Snyder used to, Big B can attest to this, let everyone beat the snot out of each other, but now the NCAA has lightened up the load quite a bit. I would say too much about how much hitting you can do, but I was impressed with the tackling. Let's put it this way. By the way, great question, Josh, or comment, because it was so good we didn't notice it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I didn't stop to think they're not blowing many tackles. They just took care of business, but the whole defense looked completely locked in. They didn't get out of their positions. Every time Martin would run something to try to get someone out of position, a reverse or whatever it was, people stayed at home. It was really a disciplined performance, and it was impressive. But I'm just going to tell you, folks, Toby came into the post-game press conference room, and he'd never been in there before, so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't expect much. He's impressive. He's an impressive young man, and put together naturally, but really handled himself extremely well and had a lot of fun explaining his sack celebration. It's not. Is it a celebration when you're not moving?
I think I know. So. I like it. Never seen it. You know what? In this day and age of NIL and all of that stuff, go do something and be original. Be original. And it's gonna rub some fans the wrong way. It's gonna rub some opponents the wrong way. So what? Like literally, so what? Who cares? It is what it is, man.
I think they're probably
part of marketing. It just is what it is. I love it.
I loved it too, actually. I loved it more when I watched him do it in the highlights. Up in the press box, that weird angle, I'm like, what is he doing? And then when he explained it, I immediately knew exactly who he was talking about because I saw that dude too. I stood there and looked at him for a good 2 minutes. Like, is he going to move at all? Like a flinch, anything, nothing. I don't know how he does it.
Are we gonna see him this weekend?
We could. Maybe we'll interrupt him and show him Toby's sack dance. It's not a dance. I don't know what to call it.
With these celebrations in college football, I don't know if you guys were watching USC LSU last night, but receiver scores a touchdown, gets flagged for, basically pretending to shoot a defender.
That's bad.
That's got a penalty for it. And then you have, you've got Travis Hunter basically break dancing like he's at an 80s disco ball club after he scores a touchdown.
I know it well.
You know what? I thought he's a pretty good dancer. If you've got those kind of moves, you should be able to show them off. But, I mean, that didn't get flagged. If they ever flag Toby Osunsami for not moving after a sack, we might as well just fire the NCAA referees into the sun.
I do wonder if the coaches are going to say, okay, do it for like 5 seconds or 3 seconds, whatever works. Don't do it too long because the refs will be confused by it.
It can't be excessive celebration if he's not celebrating. He's just standing there. You know what I mean? So that'd be a pretty bad penalty.
Yep. I don't know. I'm looking forward to this weekend, not because I'm going to New Orleans, but because I want to find out more about this team. They've got some questions, but let me point out that while I wasn't real happy with what the coaches put on the field offensively, and I know it was designed, I get all that. I thought K-State was pretty good. Not as good as they need to be, but I thought they're pretty good. And I saw a special teams question about UT Martin just kicking it out of bounds a lot, punting and being careful. Boys, when they start avoiding your returners, special teams is back. I think they knew they didn't want to mess with it. And
There's the comment right there from Rick.
And they surrendered They just surrendered yardage at some points. They just said, we're going to kick it out of bounds and you're going to get it at midfield. Big B, that's victory for the home team. If you just surrender the yardage, nobody gets hurt and you get great field position.
Absolutely. We talked about it, and about what we wanted to see in the pregame podcast. It was like, okay, what's something that we want to see? Hey, give me something on special teams, and look, it's not as flashy, the kick out of bounds, but I'll take it every time. If they're just going to punt it away from us and be afraid, these are college punters. Unless you get a guy that's going to the NFL, you run into one, these college punters are going to give you an extra 10 to 15 yards trying to angle something out of bounds. It's just the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I will take it every time.
I'm not sure, guys, that punter meant to punt the first one out of bounds.
No, I'm positive he did. Positive.
The way that K-State talked about the punting unit for UT Martin after the game, they're like, well, they have a new punter. We didn't know if they were going to rugby or not. It made it a little easier to block when they did. The first punt of the game, he shanked it out of bounds. Maybe UT's punter needed a few more 3-and-outs to get some more practice. But I do agree, guys. K-State's pretty electric back there with Sterling Lockett, Dylan Edwards, and Jacob Parrish. It was interesting hearing Coach Kleiman talk today about in the safe punt situations, they're going to want to put Jacob back there. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that because you could still hypothetically have some kind of a defense out there. Yeah. And then your starting cornerback, who was extremely good at that in high school, can just go back there and field punts if necessary.
Old Barn Cat wants to know what Toby said. Folks, all of those post-game interviews are up on our GoPowercat YouTube channel. Every single player that came in, we've got him up there. Of course, Avery's up there and Coach Kleiman. We're putting out, Ryan, we still got more of today's interviews to put up.
No, they should all be up by now.
Yep. Okay, so everything from today's up also. Yep. We'll, of course, have all those at GoPowercat. And by the way, everyone, we are having a 75% off sale. I should have mentioned it up top, but I'm dumb. I'm just not very bright.
I should have reminded you. It's my fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Gilbert's fault that I'm dumb. 75% off an annual subscription right now. I thought it ended tonight, but it actually ends tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Central, midnight Eastern for you weirdos out on the East Coast. So make sure you take care of that. If you're enjoying our free content we've got for you at YouTube, all these shows, give us a little love, support us. And that's not much of a commitment financially for a year of GoPowercat. And we kind of flooded the site with coverage of the game. Just Ryan is the managing editor or unmanageable editor, one of the two.
There you go.
He was a busy man getting everything ready to go up there, and I'm loading videos, and it was fun. It's fun to be back in the groove.
Yeah.
But by God, Tim Everson, this Monday thing's screwing with me.
That's weird. It's super because Tuesday goes back to Coach Snyder, right? I mean, it's been Tuesday for a long, long time.
I was reminded we had it for Ron Prince, but I don't remember that at all. Screw that.
None of us do.
No,
none of us do.
No. I'm having fun watching Florida State struggle here.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Fitz. Everybody's wanting Florida State in the Big 12. They're getting their head handed to them right now by Boston College. It's ridiculous.
What's ridiculous is these two teams have the same colors and basically the same helmets.
That's true.
So I'm having problems figuring out who's in the white, who's in the crimson. It's gotten very confusing for me.
Florida State.
Look in the camera, make this clear. I'm not very intelligent. I get very confused.
There's a really good time to be a Miami fan if you live in the state of Florida right now, and that's about it.
Yeah. Good Lord, Gills, are you reading what Ron just posted over? My buddy Ron.
A novel.
I'm going to put it up just because nobody wants to read this, Ron. That is a lot of words. This is Ron stayed with us on Saturday, and I think I don't even know what it says. Ron, beautiful writing.
Ron.
You got really
cover
nice
up my
handwriting,
head.
Ron. I know.
He's asking. He's bringing up the point that Tulane had 475 yards of offense, and it was basically 50-50 between rushing and passing. He also says that he knows
what Sela is. I got it.
Okay. So he's asking if K-State covers the spread. Well, I would say, Ron, we'll have a weekly article at GoPowercat where we all make our predictions. But again, I will caution people, when you go watch those highlights against Southeast Louisiana, understand it is against Southeast Louisiana. And, the state of Louisiana has so many good prospects. They have so many good football players that it becomes very difficult for Southeast Louisiana to actually get talented players from their own state, because most of them, if they are not going to a Power 5, are going to go to La Tech. They're going to go be a Raging Cajun. They're going to go to Louisiana Monroe. And Southeast Louisiana is the only I take that back. Nichols is in the FCS.
Nichols and McNeese are probably
McNeese.
more
They're the only
FCS programs in Southeast Louisiana.
Right. So there's other programs that they will go to. So there's just so many schools in Louisiana, and unfortunately, the Lions. By the way, I didn't know that they're the Lions. They're at the bottom of the pecking order. So really, Tulane.
They're ways down the totem pole there. It's not just the guys are going there. Also, they go to Alabama.
Yeah.
They go to Georgia. They go everywhere. They're not just going in state. So they are a low man on the totem pole. Then you throw in a couple of HBC or HBCUs. You throw those in there, and they're down there a ways when it comes. Again, that's not downgrade. I'm not bad mouthing them. I'm just telling you the pecking order. That's the pecking order for Southeast Louisiana. Having said that, though, that's still a lot of yards.
It is.
And that's a lot of yards in a football game. I talked about this today, Fitz, on Big 12 Insiders. You go check that out, by the way, if you haven't already.
Yes.
But I talked about the football game Iowa State played against North Dakota, where the game, North Dakota, they ran the ball 42 times. They had the ball for 15 more minutes, than Iowa State did. The game was ugly, but Iowa State technically dominated the game because they couldn't stop them, but they just didn't have the ball very much. Well, on the flip side of this, look, if you've got the ball and you're just doing wind sprints up and down the field, which sounds like what Tulane was doing, it is what it is. It's pretty good, especially as a 50-50 split with that many yards.
Yeah.
You're doing something.
Cole, if Southeast Louisiana plays Emporia State, who you got?
I would probably take Southeast Louisiana, but Gunnar Gundy's the quarterback for Emporia State right now. And I'm being totally serious. I think Emporia State would be able to hang with Southeast Louisiana, which probably says more about Southeast Louisiana. By the way, if you're watching this, Monty Spiller, my co-host for the Friday Walkthrough, his son plays for Emporia State. So that's obviously why they're so good. But no, I do. That's about the level of competition that Southeast Louisiana is. They would probably be a pretty good Division II school if they were to be in the MIAA. That's probably about the level, and their stadium, guys. Emporia State is probably on par with Southeast Louisiana. Their facilities are not very good at all.
Okay, boys, I don't think K-State's going to have a problem this weekend. I don't. I think they're going to handle it. I think what happened 2 years ago is sticking with enough guys that'll carry over. Hopefully the coaches don't put them – look, 2 years ago, I blame the play calling, and they just never let their team get in a rhythm, and then they let the other team feel really confident, and it turned on them, and it just – you can't do that. I think they're going to take care of business. Am I wrong or am I right that I'm not that worried about this weekend?
I think you're right. I think we're going to see more. I think they're going to let them do more for no reason except for, hey, you need to find that offensive rhythm, because the week after that, the high flying Arizona Wildcats come to town, and then it's conference play. Mm-hmm. So, you kind of run out of, reasons. If they go down there and it is bad, 35-0 after the first quarter, then I think they're going to slam on some brakes. We're going to see a bunch of guys out there again. They're not going to risk people getting hurt, but I think that we're going to see more for sure.
Yeah, we have to see more. You can't play football just run a vanilla in a game and then all of a sudden just turn it on. We'll see more. Now, I don't think we're going to see a ton, but we'll definitely are going to see more. And Fitz, I know you're calling for Avery to run the football a lot more. I don't think he's going to run the football a whole lot in this football game either. I don't think that's going to be part of the plan. I think what K-State will do when they run the football, they'll run it out of different formations. They'll run it out of different personnel groups. But I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of running with Avery either. Look, I can be you guys know I'm honest. If Avery gets hurt, we have a problem, because we saw what the backup quarterback situation is. They're not near as good as what Avery is. No. Now, you could say that about a lot of football teams around the country, but that's fine. But we're talking about K-State. We have a problem if that's the case. So I don't think we're going to see a ton of him running just designed run plays. We might see a few, but it's not going to be as many as what maybe a lot of fans want. And I don't think there needs to be. I really don't. At some point, you're going to need that. And I don't think they're going to need that to be able to beat Tulane.
I think you just do it once early in the game, a designed Avery run, get him into space, let him run, get some of those nerves out.
Yeah.
Then I think he'll be a better pocket passer. I know that's hard to kind of put together, but I just don't think he ever felt fully engaged in the game until he got popped. He basically said it in post game. I need to run the ball. And once I got hit on that run, I'd been hit in the pocket a few times, but then I felt like I was really involved in the game.
Maybe I don't know what you're talking about. Jabe Knuth has scored touchdowns on 100% of the drives that he has led at K-State. So, that's a tough number to argue with.
No. You're exactly right. Here's what I'll say about that, Fitz. Lamar Jackson ran the football a lot in college. He ran for 1,500 yards twice in college. If he can do it, Avery can do it. But you guys know I'm a diehard Louisville fan. He didn't do it against these type of teams. He wasn't out there running the football 100 times. He may run it once or twice, but it's just what Avery said. He would run it, or they would run it with him early, let him get tackled, let him settle down, and then throw the football. And again, this is a guy, if Avery plays like Lamar Jackson, K-State fans will be overjoyed. Let's just say that. They will be overjoyed. So if we could get that kind of production. So, yeah. Run him early. I agree with that, Fitz. Run it early. Let him get tackled. Let him get settled. And then let him throw the football, and then let the running backs run. Do that.
I think K-State rolls in this game. I don't even think we saw 30% of what K-State can do. There's so much more that they can do, both offensively and defensively. So they're going to come out, and they're going to come out guns blazing. We're going to learn a lot about this team. If they come out and, again, we talk about Vegas a lot on our shows, but if they come out and they cover the spread, I think you got to feel really confident about what this team can do. If they come out and they win, but it's close, maybe they're more along the lines of a 9-3 or an 8-4 group, as opposed to a 10-2, 11-1, or potentially 12-0. I think that they're going to be really good. So having said all that, I do think they'll come out and roll. I think they could potentially win by 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game. It just is all dependent upon A, how much they want to show, and B, what does Tulane have in the tank? Because as much as we don't know about K-State, we know even less about Tulane right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would be careful with saying if they win, if the game's close, that they're still not going to be a really, really good football team, because I believe Oregon is going to be a really, really good football team. And the game was a 3-point game with 8 minutes to go against Idaho. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure that that's always the case. Look, teams, you're going to show what you're going to show against who you're going to show it with. You don't even game plan for anything else. And coaches stick to that. They're going to stick to that. It just is what it is. And I would say going down there and just getting a win and playing well, regardless of score, if they go down there and play well and win, that's what we want. Yes, versus, if they got to beat them. I think they will win by 2 or 3 touchdowns, but I don't think we have to know if we're going to be a good football team.
That's a good way of putting it. I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Gills, any final thoughts from the mind of Ryan Gilbert?
Final thoughts from Gills. I'm proceeding with caution just because I'm sold on the defense, right? Defense played lights out, every position group, top to bottom, right? I'm sold on defense, but I'm not 100% sold on Avery Johnson. I'm not 100% sold on the wide receiver group, right? I think the running backs proved that they can certainly be they live up to the standard, the hype that they got in the preseason, right? They are going to be weapons. They're going to be explosive playmakers for K-State's team. But the wideouts didn't necessarily get the opportunity to make those plays. Avery Johnson wasn't given the keys to go out and play to his true potential. So I'm not at all saying that the wideouts or Avery Johnson isn't going to be good this year. I just didn't see that in week one. Right. So I'm proceeding with caution. I think K-State's obviously in a comfortable spot to win this game, but I still need to see a few more things before I'm 100% confident in this team.
Very good. Let's close up shop. We all want to watch this Florida State game. Florida State finally found the end zone and then gave up a kickoff return that put Boston College in their territory. Florida State, in Florida State's defense, those opt-outs are still killing them. The opt-outs in the bowl have just lingered. It's just really affected them. That's it. We'll be back later in the week with what all we got here. We got the regular PowerCat podcast. We got the pregame show, and of course the Friday walkthrough with Cole and Monty Spiller. That thing got a lot of views this week. Basically podcasts all week long. And then tomorrow, Big B and I will have the Big 12 Insiders on that channel doing the weekly, what is it called? The
Power Rankings.
Power Rankings. I just totally spaced out. Man, I got to go to bed. Thanks for watching, everyone. Go away, everyone else. Yeah, that's you, Gills.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.